is going to show you those basics. They're going to spice up quite a bit. You're in for quite a good treat, but you're going to also just see some beautiful, solid formation flying. Smoke all comes on the aircraft. Take a look as they approach from the right, the Red Eagles formation team. See, they're called the VIC, standing for V, because they make kind of a V shape between the 5 aircraft. Give you a couple of terminologies. Of course, the U.S. Navy and the Marine Corps, and they have one way of saying things, and the Air Force has a different way. They use different terminology. The basic 2-ship formation is called a section, but in the Air Force it's called an element. The 4-ship in the Navy is called a division, and the U.S. Air Force is a flight. No matter what you call it, it's got to be flown with discipline and skill, and you are seeing that before you today. Now watch this maneuver here as they approach the crowd. Number 5 going to move into the twister position here around the formation. Combining the 4-ship formation with some pretty cool aerobatics. Take a look. That smoke trail. Let me tell you a little about the team. The lead guy, I told you we had a pretty international thing going here, and helicopters, low-level aerobatic waivers, both solo and formation aerobatics, as well as instrument and tailwheel ratings. Now as they approach from the right, watch number 3 and number 5 perform the vortex. On the far side, every little movement between the second aircraft gets multiplied with the third aircraft, which gets multiplied with the fourth aircraft, and so on. Also, the guy, the pilot on the outside of the turn there, flying the biggest line, he's got to have more power available to be able to fly, just like you would if you're running on a track on that outside lane. You've got to be running faster to keep up. And believe me, these guys do not have the extra horsepower you've got in those F-18s. They cannot afford to fall out of position because once you're out, you don't have the excess thrust to be able to get back in. Now as they maneuver throughout this portion, we've witnessed basic formations utilized by our military aviators as well as the transitions from one to another. Take a look right now as they move forward for the bomb burst break. Get those cameras ready. Rejoins taking place. This is a very, very difficult skill to learn for a new aviator. You're not just working in the horizontal, if you will. You've got to use the vertical. You'll see the 2 upper aircraft using that altitude to their advantage to come carving down, which allows them to accelerate and gain up on the lead much quicker than if they were coming in from a lower position. Also got to keep track of all those other aircraft. You can't just go diving in blindly. And they affect the rejoin there very, very quickly, parking it right up on in, looks like into another VIC formation. You got to be able to judge that relative motion, have precise control, really critical elements for a young aviator learning in formation. The crowd. They would like to dedicate it to all the ladies here today. Well, acro flight's coming inbound towards Crowd Center to perform the formation loop. Limey's got to be pretty smooth on this. The outrigger, the wingman there, simply looking at him. They're not looking outside. They're focusing on their references on the aircraft, adjusting stick, adjusting power to maintain that perfect position as Limey slides into a 4G pull over the top. Slower speeds than you'll get in the Hornet, obviously, but very, very high turn rates. The number of degrees per second they are turning the aircraft are actually quite high and very disorienting at times.
That dog.
So as you can see, this developing into a beautiful show center pass here on the head-on. Thread the needle, ladies and gentlemen. I think if I was the wingman, I'd just be happy to look at the lead and not watch that whole thing develop. That's pretty cool. Take a look, the smoke is on. Good visual illusion they're going to set up on this. And he calls, ready, ready, break.
Good job.
Torque all changing continuously through the maneuver. And unlike today's tactical jets I mentioned, they don't have the power to fix it if they fall out. They cannot fall out of position on this barrel roll. Arcing up, you'll see it basically turns and points almost 60 degrees off to the left and then rolling back to finish out on the show line. Ever so graceful when it's flown just like this. Limey with a great lead today. Pass here. Acroflight will execute the dramatic quarter cloverleaf with a vertical fan brake. They then reorient and rejoin back into a 5-ship, putting their formation, the Red Eagles, back into their very traditional 5-ship Vic. Gentlemen.
I'm too sexy for my love, too sexy for my love, love's going to leave.
Well, Dano's spicing things up for the in-trail formation.
This one's actually for Pester. He sings this all the time about himself.
Nice.
Well, Pester, he's just too sexy for his yak.
Nice.
As they pull up into the break, the traditional Navy carrier brake. Yeah, with a little bit of air show flourish thrown in, I think. I think probably most of the Navy pilots that would wince from me saying that, but a very beautiful looking brake. Great trail interval spacing they have.